Neil Lennon
Amongst
remains Neil Lennon remains the man in charge come Thursday for the Europa League.
Well,
I'll let
we
you
think
two
so.
take
We
it
think
up,
so.
but no, we know.
Well,
We know it is confirmed he will be in
I
charge.
think it was confirmed.
On Thursday night.
Or did the club confirm it?
The club,
And this
like,
is
so
like-
that's the point we're going to come on to, because the Celtic fans are not happy with the communication. They are dripping information through numerous media outlets and not talking to the fans
I
themselves.
hope a
That's
Celtic
one of
player
the
doesn't have a
major
birthday in the next couple of days because they're going to get slaughtered on
Oh, I
social
know.
media for
Do you
it.
see the video of Ryan Christie?
No.
What was it?
So it's so staged. It's for the cameras. Oh my god, it's so bad. It's got George Bush vibes 2001. So like,
Wow.
No, genuinely. So
He likes a
Christie's-
dodgy historical comparison.
It's a
It's a conspiracy.
How many marbles has Peter Law got left?
I don't know. George Bush was a good guy until 2001.
So what was the video?
So the video is Ryan Christie sitting doing a press conference after the Ross County game at the weekend, and the door knocks for the side, and you just hear the voice going, "He's got to go," and like Ryan Christie looks at it and looks back at the camera. Like,
What?
it's so staged. It's because they have to get the fans, the
It
players.
is pantomime season, to
Like,
be
what
honest.
do you
Isn't
want-
it?
I'll show
Oh,
you.
right, okay. I get
So
you now.
it's
Okay.
because they had to rush all the players.
I thought you meant Lennon's got to go in the middle
Oh,
of the
but
press conference.
Christie's like that.
So wait till I'll
The
show you
gaffer's
the
away.
video right now. I'll turn the volume down so we don't get copyrighted or anything. But this is a first reaction for people here. So this is the video here. So you hear the door knock. Hold on.
Top quality content.
Hold on.
as
Yep.
usual,
Wait.
Casey.
Wait. It's just he's got to go. So staged, it's unbelievable. So that was what's happening at Celtic Park at the weekend.
Oh my
Neil
god.
Lennon remains in a job. Your thoughts first of all before we even turn to me, because you've been quite vocal on it as well to me.
Well, I'm gonna go with a quick 20 seconds here because it's gonna get completely lost, and it has been lost in the media coverage of what happened on Sunday. Quick 20 seconds about Ross County. I thought they were amazing. I don't want to get this out of the way early because they'll miss it, but I thought they were absolutely brilliant, completely deserved it. So many individual performances were unreal. That boy Yakoveti at the back, Morris at the back, Stephen Kelly in the midfield, Ross Stewart was amazing. You know, they just fought harder for the 1 second balls, they ran channels, they did the dirty side of things well. Absolutely deserved a win. So absolutely credit to Ross County. And it's a shame that that's kind of been lost because we're all talking about Celtic.
It's up there with the biggest wins in their history
It
going
is,
away to
it
Celtic
is.
Park. I
Oh,
know that they're in
I know
turmoil,
they've had a
but to
famous
go
win
there
in this
and
before, but I mean that's
aye,
just as.
but to go there with that game plan, the commentator on the day was saying that on aggregate it was something like 26-1 to Celtic over the last so many games, and I'm guessing that Ross County have done a similar game plan against Celtic those times, but Celtic have obviously just had too much for them, which just goes to show how good they done on the day. I thought like every cross it was going in, although there wasn't enough. Celtic going into the box, they were winning everything. They were hitting them on the counter. They looked dangerous, and they thoroughly deserved the win.
Absolutely, and I think loads of people. Listen, I was one who was pretty vocal last week about how I thought it was a perfect time for Lennon because I couldn't see them not winning their next 5 games. You look at the next run of fixtures, it's so kind. I thought they're going to batter Ross County. Absolutely, they'll smash them and it'll be fine. It'll die down a little bit. I did not expect that at all, especially with County being poor form. Did you see Hugh Keevans, what he was saying? The night before the game, he was slagging off everyone on Twitter saying it was impossible Celtic would get beat by Ross County. And he was saying people were idiots for predicting otherwise. And then
I mean,
all
we've
of a
all
sudden,
been left to look at predictions in the
but
past.
no, right. So Celtic are obviously in a mess. What else can you really say apart from what I've said for months and months before even you said it? Lennon is not the right man for the job. That's clear as day. He's never going to walk away from what is he on, like 50 grand?
£2.5 million.
Yeah, he's never going to walk away.
Is that Merlin Rodgers?
Merlin Rodgers.
How's that happened?
You tell me.
I thought he was like the cheap option. That's what everybody
Everybody
says.
keeps saying cheap option, but their money than Brendan Rodgers.
So he's never going to walk away from that for a starter. So it's clear that the sort of frustrations now turning towards the board. I don't really like these big bold predictions because they leave you looking a little bit foolish, but the league is absolutely done. It's absolutely done. There's no way in my mind. The only way Celtic could have clawed it back was if they'd sacked him a week ago. He's not. He'll probably still be in charge next week, and if he's not, it'll probably be John Kennedy. And even if they bring in a Strachan, even a Jack Ross, who's all think he's a good manager, it's not enough. Rangers are too good. It's going to take too much of a turnaround, and I actually think there's a lot of Celtic fans who are beginning to accept this. Maybe not vocally, but yeah, I just can't see any way now, unless they get a top manager in the next 2 weeks, they can turn this around. Because you're still reliant on Rangers slipping up, and that, for me, isn't going to happen. At least not to the level it has done in recent years.
It's one of the ones as well where if you try and go out and get a top manager like Celtic did previously with Brendan Rodgers, a top manager isn't going to come in this circumstance. No, I don't think.
I don't think
they're
so
going to want to come in before the start of the season, or they're going to want to come in with guaranteed money to spend in January. Are Celtic going to have that as well? For any manager that comes in, is Lennon going to have that because of the amount of money that they spent there in the summer? Which is another big talking point about all these players that they've brought in. Barkas, I seen a great tweet about him saying, is that just sleeves and he's getting the arms?
Mate, all he does is pick the ball out of the net. All he does.
You see in terms of Barkas, because there's much bigger issues in Barkas to talk about here, but in terms of Barkas, I had a very interesting conversation with somebody yesterday, and a very good point that was highlighted to me is you can see it even in the communication with the defence. None of them believe in each other. The defence doesn't believe in the goalkeeper doesn't believe in him, because what's the first thing that usually happens when a stupid goal is conceded? Usually the goalkeeper gets up and starts screaming at his defence. Barkas turns his head away, picks the ball at the net, and we move on. There is no confidence between either one of them. But the point now is, look, we're beyond the past of goalkeepers. We're beyond the part of blaming players in the park. The issue has now come to the point where we've got fans outside the stadium. David, you took a wee gander down the other day.
Even walks, you've had to see any interest.
He took a gander.
Didn't expect it to be as mad as it was. It was like a walk-up, see if anyone turned
over
up.
1,000 people there.
Yeah, it was easy.
Is that right? It was into the thousands?
Easy, man. Easy.
At Celtic Park. We've seen the scenes that were...
Choppers turning up and stuff. I was like, what is going on here?
But as much as maybe the media has painted it out to be a different sort of occasion than it was, I wasn't there myself, so I can't exactly comment on what was happening.
I didn't see any missiles thrown.
No,
I have to be honest.
I don't think anybody did. But the thing is now, the Celtic fans have made their point.
Apart from that fence that got thrown back.
Verbal missiles.
Oh, there was a fair few of them.
Did you hear that?
You could say certainly there was missiles in the form of fences
People
and little sharks towards police. I don't know if they were directed towards the players, but it's each in their own, innit?
Listen, it was horrible. It was toxic as hell, man. I mean, there was like a group at the front that charged that fence down. It died in a little bit after that, but it was. There was times there was breaches in that fence where they could have easily ran and they all shut it.
Kind of ran in and then ran back out for videos.
So anyway, the point I want to get
Put me back. The
point I want to get onto is the papers were putting it toward were labelling it as a siege from the Celtic fans. You know that the club were under siege. Now we're looking at the fact that the board have taken the club under siege from the fans. The fans are not happy. Well, a portion of the fans, of course, it's split opinion right down the middle. This is going to hurt Celtic come next summer, and I know you don't necessarily agree, but it is getting worse and more toxic as the days go by and as the hours go by. You just have to scroll through Twitter for 5 minutes and look. But look, this is a board who urged Celtic fans not to cancel their season tickets, despite knowing that there would not be one single person in the stadium all season, and now they're not even, half the man, whoever wants to make these calls, are not man enough to come out and address the Celtic fans with a statement either positive or negative regarding the position of the manager. They're dropping news and information through outlets in the media that's expecting to please Celtic fans or give them some sort of satisfaction to what's happening. They have dropped names such as the Cynic from going to the stadium and being part of the press conferences for whatever reason with no explanation whatsoever, because purely they are Celtic fans and they ask hard-hitting questions. They've banned them from going to the stadium. And Dermot Desmond is now coming out and coming out with ludicrous statements against the fans. It's really a toxic atmosphere, and people might like to say, say 10,000 people did drop their season tickets next year. Well, there's 10,000 people on the waiting list to take that. No, the difference is if we don't win 10 in a row this year, that 10,000 signed up at a time where we were winning trophies and we were en route to winning league titles. Do you think that same 10,000 on waiting lists are going to be willing to pay for a season ticket or get a season ticket when we've just lost a league title, Neil Lennon's still in charge of the team, and ultimately we're moving backwards? No, they people are not going to wait in the waiting list. It's a shambolic state of affairs right now over in the boardroom. And David, I know you were quite vocal yesterday. Have you got any points towards that, the Celtic board right now?
Well, I told you this was that
because it's just going to be a circle now.
After the banner, I said the first thing they'll do now, it's easy for the board. They've got a get out of jail free card. They will pit the fans as the problem. The ones that put the banner out, the ones that went and did the protest last week. Easy. It was, from a PR point of view, it makes so much sense for Celtic.
Fans against each other
because,
as well.
Because the last few days, we're not talking about Lennon as much as we should do. We're now talking about the fans that went up there and the mainstream media especially.
And all that.
That's become the issue, and it's easy for the board to pit the blame on them because they know fine well there's a portion of Celtic fans that are naturally aggressive, I'm not the right word, cynical towards the Green Brigade and that anyway. They'll jump on that bandwagon, and it is taking the pressure a little bit. I think it sounds mad, but I think the pressure is not as much on Lennon as it probably should have been. I don't know. I mean, the whole club is just an absolute mess. This is the reason I think the league's done. It's not even so much because Rangers are so good. Rangers, I think, will probably lose a few games this season. They'll probably have a spell where they maybe draw one, lose one, and it'll happen, I think. But Celtic, there was a great thread I saw this morning of like all of the little things that have gone wrong, from like ball and goalie and the 4 days off going to Spain, Griffiths' house party, Oko flex on social media. These things weren't happening under Rodgers. They just weren't. It was a complete, and I hate the word culture, but the culture is just miles off it. You know, Lennon coming out after Ferencváros and saying there was multiple players that didn't want to be there.
So why are they still in the
Then
team?
he retains the same squad and plays those players that were the ones that were supposed to leave in what is arguably your biggest season in
That was like the
Gordon
opening Pandora's box.
See, it's easier now to look
He
back.
didn't need to see it.
It did not. It was a complete. It was a mix between him throwing his toys at the pram after the game because we were defeated in a shocking manner, and also I feel like some sort of grab for authority.
Didn't work.
Just didn't work. You know, he planned to come out. I don't know if his plan was to galvanise these players and get them to start playing and show their worth to the club because they weren't leaving. I don't know what his point was, but I feel like he was trying to state some sort of authority, and it's just backfired completely.
It's so obvious the players do not. They don't fear him, and that's the biggest thing. I think the players feared Rodgers. And Rodgers isn't that type, but it's in a different kind of way.
But he had an authority.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not like a shouting ball and authority. It's a
a presence. He had the presence.
I feel like everybody's talking about as well, like the players turning against him. I think there's a potential that the dressing room's more divided than the players totally collectively turning against the manager.
Right.
I think senior players like Scott Brown and Callum McGregor have came out and backed him publicly, or maybe on his side, whereas there might be other ones that just look like they can't be arsed. I mean, when you look at Ayer, he is a shadow of the player that he shouldn't be in the last 18 months or so. I don't know if his head's been turned. Obviously it's the full team, but the level of performance is unbelievable, and I think that's something that Celtic fans must be raging at as well. Just the level of performance. See if you go out and you get beat off your AC Milans and your Leos, and maybe that's a bad example, or you get beaten, you put up a fight, then fair enough, it's not acceptable, but at least you're showing something, and you're showing like the level of performance.
Beaten for so long,
and that's just miles off it at the moment.
I think for a month they've looked beaten.
The worst point about it all for me
and
is
it's November.
This is the point I kind of wanted to wrap.
It's December actually.
I want to get I know it's mad, isn't it? December already. The Rangers on top of the league by 11 points.
Feels like 2011.
I'm going to come back to you in a minute, Dev, because I want your opinion on a certain side of things, and it gives it a better aspect. You know, it's rare to get a Rangers fan on at the moment, so it's nice to have.
I know, I seen that. It was turning it. Was it Talk Celtic TV or something?
Sash whistled, but Sash whistled.
I seen that. I seen that.
That's the sass whistle. But the sources. So this was according to the record. So take it as you like. But the sources are saying Dermot Desmond is simply not the kind of man who will be dictated by a hate mob. If anything, what went on after the game on Sunday has strengthened his resolve to give Neil another chance to turn things around. It's obviously been a terrible run of results for the manager, but last Friday, despite the Europa League defeat against Sparta Prague, Dermot was absolutely unequivocal of his support from Neil. Yes, the defeat to Ross County was a bad one, but the reaction to it was even more unacceptable from the fans as far as Dermot is concerned. And this was the point. So apparently, the board have came out with the quote of enormous sense of entitlement, which has pissed off people big time after chucking money into the club. You know, see, the message is, do the club only contact us or get communication through with us when they want the money? Because the point is now, Neil knows he can't go on losing games indefinitely, but he will also not be thrown to the wolves just because of the demands of a bunch of fans with an enormous sense of entitlement.
He's really went for them, isn't he?
It's a horrendous quote.
It was so obvious what's going to happen.
But it's such a horrendous.
It's the use of the language, words like mob and stuff like that. It immediately paints a picture. Listen, there were some absolute arseholes at that turned up there the other night. Arseholes, man.
The whole thing.
But there were also a lot of genuine Celtic fans who stood back and kind of watched it and were like, "Listen, we're pissed off. We want to tell them we can't do it."
I think it's almost
absolutely had to happen.
It's almost got to that point as well because they can't actually go and vent their frustrations at the stadium as well. But obviously we are obviously going through a pandemic at the moment, so it's one of the ones as well.
I was social distancing and I had my mask on. If
you're gone, it's kind of break the rules a wee bit, and it was always going to happen. It was always going to happen if something like that went through, and as you say, there was thousands there, or verging on 1,000 people or whatever. There's always got to be a few dicks, but it just looked like it was embarrassing.
See, the thing is,
it was embarrassing.
It
was too far, so it was.
It's a cycle now that's going to keep happening. I completely understand what's happening. If I honestly might have threw myself down in a social distance matter to join in the chance, because it's a message that has to be sent to the board. But it's going to be a cycle now. You're going to see there's already talk after the statements that came out this morning and the positive Zoom calls of the next one being held in the coming days, perhaps Thursday. If we get battered off of AC Milan, which I presume we will on Thursday, there will be one after the game on Thursday, and it's just going to keep happening and happening and happening until Dermot Desmond and Peter Law finally make a decision to not just communicate with the Celtic fans but pull the trigger.
The venting the frustration thing is a really good point, because it's so easy for clubs to say, well, not everyone's on social media, so when a group's fans on social media are like, we want the manager out, they go, well, so many aren't on social media. Social media is just a minority. You hear that all the time. So how do you vent your frustration? There's probably more peaceful ways to go about it. But
the only way that they could have did it this season really as well is through social media.
Yeah.
And it's got to a point where, as you said, the response for the club has been horrendous. Mm-hmm. I mean, if Celtic go to AC Milan, they get beat, right? Who do they play in the following game?
It'll be Leo. No,
right.
Leo in the last
so
game.
if Celtic lose both games, that's 0 wins in 10, I believe. Because they're 2 wins in 10 or something. So it'll be 1 win in 10 or something like that. That's just unacceptable. Doesn't matter.
No manager would survive it. We've been
I just don't get it.
2 wins in 9
I don't get it, mate.
No, it's 2 wins in 10.
It's almost like they've let it go on that long that they're just doubling down on it now, and it seems like Desmond is like a dictator. He's like, nah, I'm not listening to that because
I mean, there's not a hope in hell he genuinely believes Neil Lennon's going to turn this around. Surely not. Surely
I
not.
made a point last night when we sat and played Football Manager. I can't remember it now. I thought it was a great point.
But like, it looks like none of them believe it. Like, there's no way Neil Lennon believes he can turn that around. I don't care what he says. He's got to say he believes, because he can't not say that.
He's clutching at absolutely everything at the moment as well. He's tried to out players. He's tried to blast players. He's tried to cuddle players.
I actually feel for him a little bit, because he's never going to walk away from. He should do. He's not going to walk away from the job. He's clearly not in a good place. Just look at. He doesn't look healthy. Like John Kennedy as well. The two of them look like done
like
completely.
The final nail in the coffin was when the Ross County second goal goes in. The camera goes to Neil Lennon. He's at the laptop with Stratton.
But that's why you're wrong there, because the final nail in the coffin was weeks ago for me.
Well, the final nail in the coffin.
He was checking if he could see.
What was that about?
Did you see it?
I seen that.
Did you see him stand there? Oh my gosh! What are you doing? You can tell he's lost it.
But it's not just him. Brown looks beaten. McGregor looks beaten. I think McGregor is a brilliant player. McGregor's had a pretty poor month apart from Scotland. I thought McGregor and Brown, Christie tried really hard at the weekend. Lennon said post-match he didn't think that the effort wasn't there from his play, and I kind of agree with him a little bit. I didn't watch the game at the weekend and think that they weren't trying, but they just have no idea. No idea, and when they've got no confidence, it's what I've said to him for months. Lennon's got so lucky last season because his players were high on confidence, and when Lennon's at his best, he lets the team free-flowing attacking football, go out, express yourselves, and when they're on form, when they've got confidence, guys like Edward, Griffiths, Christie, they're flying, amazing players. But see, when they're low in confidence and there's no structured setup to how they attack, they are clueless, and it's so obvious just now. Defensively, offensively, don't have a clue.
Surely top players should know though. In that game versus Ross County, they're set up in a bank of 5 and a bank of 4. You need to try and get down the sides, because it was almost like they were trying to go through the middle, and because they were so narrow, you're going to get limited chances. The biggest chance was probably through a bit of magic through Rogic, who puts through a Yeti.
But if you play,
anything though, right, everybody was calling for Hamed to come back in. If anything, that was the game Frimpong should have played rather than the other ones. So it falls back to the manager in that sense as well. It's just this big vicious circle.
Because if your wingers are Christie and El Yunusi, you immediately get the ball and come inside to narrow in the pitch. If you've got El Hamed, who I think is a really good player, his starting position isn't naturally as high as Frimpong's is, so you lose that width.
He's not able to stretch a game.
Yeah.
Not able to get Ross County out their shape.
And Laxalt, who has been good in a dreadful Celtic team, was rubbish at the weekend, and that hampered them as well. I think Laxalt's got the worst record of any Celtic player in history.
Apparently, that's shocking for such a good player.
He's actually done. Has he not been the best player?
He has, yeah.
But I'm getting very, very conscious that we're going to end up burning too much time. I'm 25 minutes in already, so I want to wrap it up with one final point for myself. Then I just want to have a very quick opinion of Div. Look, it's one of these things that split the support massively. We know that is you get the as some would call the Celtic Daz on one side, and then you get the younger support. These guys calling us entitled because we never had the chance to sit through us not winning in the 90s. But they're perfectly happy to sit and watch the club go through it again, and they're perfectly happy to take their anger out on fans rather than the club themselves. Look, the sense of entitlement thing is bollocks, does my head in. No my fault, I wasn't born in the year 1987, you know, I didn't get to grow up with it. The fact that I want us to do well is because I am used to winning, and the whole point of football is you want to win. I'm sure as a Rangers fan you'll agree, you want to win everything. That is the whole point in being the best team in Scotland. If you claim to be the best team in Scotland, you need to show that, and right now, we're not. So, that's my final point to wrap up. Div, being on the opposition side, how is it? Just watching in, just observing it, drinking it all in. How do you feel about it?
It's absolutely mental, mate, to be quite honest, because obviously you've spoke about how successful Celtic have been over the last decade. I remember Rangers getting beat at home off of Annan in the bottom division, drawing games against Stirling and scraping past teams, and kind of still going and supporting the team and try to get behind them and all that sort of stuff. I think that this is kind of been set up to fail in a sense for Celtic, in terms of they kind of ate into the idea that there was one part of the fan base that was maybe bigger than the others, and now I think with all the terms like your Celtic Daz and this and that, it seems like Celtic fans are now divided. It's like a civil war.
It is, it's like, I think so,
and I think it's a bit unfair to maybe label it Celtic Daz, because I think that even some of the older generation are in the side of the younger, and then there's people in the older side that are blaming all the young guys, and they're blaming just the Green Brigade, and maybe they're blaming somebody else, and there's so much division at the moment within the support, never mind the club. I think that the supporters as a whole probably need to come collectively and just agree on something and try and push towards that.
The reason we should be coming together and pushing for something is a push for change, because it's clear and evident it has to be there, but there's still some blinded by the fact that Lennon is the man.
Is there seriously still supporters out there that are saying
you go through my comment section, mate. Go through my comment section and you will see the amount of people I've had saying I'm unsubscribing because we're meant to be Celtic through and through and you want the manager out. No wonder, man.
Tommy Sheridan's probably the one. I find just a final point. We've said so long for Celtic when they've been flying recently that the most impressive thing is that when they've been on top, they've managed to keep going. Especially in the last couple of years when Rangers have got a little bit stronger, they've managed to maintain the level. It's so much more difficult chasing a league title when you're defending it and under pressure than it is when perhaps people expect another team to win it and you're a bit of an underdog. It's easier that way. But see, when you're on top, and it's something Celtic have done well up until maybe the last 2 years, you've got to adapt to not just stay on top, but to keep going.
Aye.
And it was done. I've said it for so long now. The day Neil Lennon was appointed the manager without an interview process and without anything, that was a start. Maybe not of an immediate decline, but it was like, and it seems to me like their entire plan has been, even from pre-season this year, well, we'll be fine if we do the same again because Rangers will slip up. Rangers will slip up, so we'll be fine. That seems to me that was a big part of their thinking, and I think straight away they're screwed at that point. And they've spent money, but they've backed the wrong horse in Lennon, and that is what's gonna hurt them long term.
And I know the post matches and stuff that Gerrard's doing at the moment as well. He's talking about just focusing on Rangers.
Nobody's talking about Rangers.
You know, I said it
just focus on us, game at a time. Whereas
if I was Gerrard, I'd be loving looking at the back.
Perfect segue into Rangers. This.